What's up, my allies? My name is Zacharias, and this is Thank You Universe. And thank you so much for tuning in here with me today. Today's video is going to be just a little different because today we're going to be talking about the current corona crisis that is corroding our communities and confounding and captivating our collective consciousness. It's kind of concerning. Basically, shit's been getting pretty whack with all of this lockdown and the coronavirus and the panic and the fear. And I've just had so much to think about recently, and I wanted to talk about it, and I didn't quite know what to say or what I was going to say because it can be a very inflammatory subject. A lot of people are very afraid right now, and when people are afraid, they act in ways that are not so nice. But something happened. A manifestation of chaos occurred while I was doing my laundry. So let me just show you all, actually. This is a mask I bought. I work in a psych hospital. We have to wear masks, obviously. And I wanted to have like a nice cotton mask that I could wear and reuse, be eco-friendly. This one's cotton. It's got copper inside of it, so it's supposed to be very antibacterial and keep bacteria and viruses from getting you. But let me just show you what happened when I did my laundry. So I just threw this in the wash just because I like to wash everything once before I wear it, because you never know what kind of dust or chemicals or what have you could be on it from the factory. But I threw it in the washing machine, and this is what happened. I don't know if you can see. There's the mask, there's the loops that loop around your ears and all that, and this one, I threw it in the laundry, it came out like this. And it's kind of like this crazy unsolvable puzzle I've been working on, because you think like, okay, let me just pull it through one of the straps on one of the sides, there we go. I don't know if, yeah, the camera's getting it. You can see, and then ta-da, it's back exactly how it was, in this infinite chaos loop, and I have no idea how it got this way. And I've been asking people like for help, because I think, it happened so it can unhappen. Like, it got into this chaos loop, so obviously there's got to be a way to undo it. I showed this to my older brother Ryan, who is a puzzle master, just to let you know his background. He's beaten pretty much, I think all, but maybe not all, but I'm pretty sure every Legend of Zelda game. So basically, he's a puzzle wizard. And I showed him my mask, and he recreated his own. He had to cut one of the corners to open it up so he could wrap it around to get it in this configuration. There's flies attacking me right now. This chaotic configuration, and he can't figure it out. And I'm just like, I've tried so many times, I've been fiddling with this mask so much, and I just think, this is just a manifestation of chaos that occurred in my life, and it reflects the larger chaos that is currently happening. Let me get back into shot. There we go. So this chaotic event happened with my mask, and it reflects the larger chaos that is going on around us. As with the Hermetic law of correspondence, as above, so below, as below, so above, as within, so without. Basically, the collective chaos going on outside is happening, and within the microcosm of my laundry machine and my mask, there's also chaos going on, and it reflects each other. But this mask is a manifestation of chaos. I don't know how it got that way, but it is what it is. We're gonna embrace the chaos and roll with it. But I did want to talk to you all about the chaos that is going on with this whole Rona situation. So to me, the real virus of all this situation is the fear going on. Everyone has been in a lot of fear. People have been acting in ways that are not ideal. When you're afraid, you act in ways that are not your ideal, positive, hippie, loving, high vibe self. And it seems like the fearful voices have been the loudest. And I've just seen so many people saying things like, oh, you have to wear your mask and listen to what the CDC is saying and what the government is saying, and, all the death tolls and all that, and you have to listen to it. And if you don't wear a mask, if you take it off for even a second, everyone dying is directly your responsibility. I mean, obviously people don't directly say that, but that's like the sentiment. Like, people are seeing each other as the enemy. People are paranoid of each other. If someone coughs in a public place, everyone's like, get away from me. You know, and people are getting angry at each other, and they're wanting to put blame on each other, on their fellow humans. But we're all allies, remember, everyone? We're allies here. So you don't need to turn on your fellow human and see them as a disease-carrying plague person or as the enemy who's spreading everything. And I've just noticed that anyone who talks about the coronavirus and says, hey, you know, the way the media is reporting on this is kind of weird, and the way we're handling the situation is kind of sketchy, they're just like, oh, you're an anti-vaxxer, you're a horrible person, and everything is your fault. And honestly, it's getting so ridiculous. I just want to have an open discussion, because it seems like we're not even allowed to talk about differing opinions and questioning the way that the narrative around the coronavirus is being narrated to us. So I want to discuss my personal concerns, maybe some of you out there have these concerns as well, with this idea of a vaccine for the coronavirus and continuing the lockdown. Because there are concerns about vaccines, and I know a lot of people are just gonna instantly be like, oh, you're horrible, you're an anti-vaxxer. I'm not. I just want an open discussion and a discussion of the actual concerns around these issues. So, with that being said, I'm just going to bring up some of these concerns about vaccination. So, at the beginning of this year, January 10th, 2020, it's been an interesting year so far. I believe it was the Department of Defense did this study. I'm not sure. I'll link it down below after I make this video. So, the Vaccine Journal, a very well-established scientific source full of very smart people that you should listen to. They came out with this study that talks about virus interference, and basically what that is one of the negative impacts that vaccines can have. And they came out with this study on virus interference, and what the study showed, they took these different groups of people who were vaccinated, who weren't vaccinated, with the influenza vaccine, and they did this study, and it showed that people who got the influenza vaccine were actually more likely, had greater odds of contracting the coronavirus and the metapneumovirus. I had to look that one up, but it's a virus that infects your upper respiratory tract. A lot of people get it apparently, but for vulnerable populations like children and people over 75, it can develop into pneumonia and more severe infections. But yeah, so the flu vaccine made people more susceptible to these other respiratory viruses, and that is what is called virus interference. When vaccines that they give people to try and make them more immune actually make people more susceptible to different illnesses. And this is backed by a very well scientifically established study in a journal that is well established, so all the people that want to get angry at me for saying that vaccines aren't always safe, science. And the real large concern with vaccines and vaccine safety is antibody-induced enhancement. Basically, that is when people take vaccines to try and get an immune response, try and get their antibodies and killer T cells going to kill the virus, and their body will recognize the virus and say, hey, we know what that is, let's fuck it up. Because our bodies are really good at doing that sort of thing. And so that's the whole idea behind vaccines, is you're trying to induce an immune response in your body so that your body is trained how to do some kung fu against that particular virus. But what happens, and what can happen, is when you are vaccinated, the antibodies and the killer T cells kill off a lot of the virus, but it is the weaker versions of the virus. And so stronger versions of the virus that are vaccine resistant, that don't get killed by the antibodies and all that, are the ones that replicate, and so the virus becomes stronger and we're not able to stop it. It becomes even harder to kill than it was before. So these viruses mutate, they become stronger, they're little spike proteins that the antibodies learn to bind to and attack. They change, they mutate, and that's why with things like the flu and the flu vaccine. They have to do a new one every year because it doesn't protect you against all forms of that particular virus. And vaccines are not 100% effective. They can be protective against certain forms of the virus, but they're never 100%. That's why they have to make a new influenza shot every single year. And this can create even stronger forms of the virus that become resistant to our own antibodies and our killer T cells, and they become an even bigger problem. I just have to say real quick, I am not a doctor, I'm not an expert on vaccines or any of that, so if I get anything wrong, go ahead and yell at me in the comments, comment down below, but I'm just someone who reads a lot, and I do have a degree in psychology. I learned how to read research studies pretty well, and I read a lot, so that's what I do. So that's where this information is coming from, based on studies that I have read. So vaccines are not 100% effective, they're only partially effective, and that's how it is with the influenza vaccine, and that is most likely what we're going to get with the coronavirus vaccine. But partially effective vaccines run the risk of creating stronger strains of the virus, of creating vaccine-resistant strains to the virus. So we're making the superbug. That's why when people use the hand sanitizer and it says kills 99.9% of viruses and bacteria, and you're just like, that 0.01% comes back to be the super virus that takes us all out. That's the concern anyways. So I want to read you all this quote from Larry Brilliant. That's his name. I think it's kind of funny. Maybe he's a brilliant guy. Who knows? But he worked for the Panda Force, not the Panda Force. I'm not really sure how you say it. The Panda Force Advisory, and he led the World Health Organization's smallpox eradication program. So he's someone who's very much in the world of working on vaccines and stuff like that. I don't necessarily think his position should make him someone that we all listen to, but here's what he had to say. If we are forced to choose a vaccine that gives only 1 year of protection, then we are doomed to have COVID become endemic, an infection that is always with us. Think about that for a second. Think about the lockdown that's been happening. Think about everyone being in fear, wearing the masks all the time, people being told to stay inside. They're saying that this is how things are going to be. We're going to keep having the coronavirus. And you really have to think about, is this the way that we want to live? Is this going to be sustainable? And so we have to look at the way that we've been handling it with the lockdown, the mandated stay-at-home orders, with the masks and everything. A lot of people have been having a lot of trouble with this way of living. And it's just like, well, we had a good run, humans. We tried to live freely and peacefully on Earth, but then the coronavirus came around, and now we're gonna have to be locked up forever and live in fear of each other and always wear masks. And this is the new normal of this disease, plague-fearing society that we have created. And that's not the kind of life that I want to live. You know, I'm a hippie, I still sneak out into nature, don't tell anybody, but I'm not spreading the virus to anyone out here. I'm just enjoying all the good, vibrant plants and the health that is out here. And I don't believe in mandated vaccines. I don't believe that vaccines are 100% effective, because they're not. If you look at the research, if you look at how vaccines are actually made, no one's ever even claimed that they are 100% effective, even though certain factions, maybe pharmaceutical companies and the media outlets, which they have a lot of influence over, try to make out a vaccine like it is the solution that will save us. But it's not even 100% effective, so even if we do have this vaccine, we're still going to have to live with the current situation, with the lockdown and the masks and the fear. And to me, that's not a way to live. I don't believe that we should mandate the vaccine to everyone, because they're not guaranteed to work. The only thing that is guaranteed from having a mandated vaccine is you're guaranteeing a bunch of profits for the pharmaceutical companies and the people who distribute the vaccine to everyone. So I want to talk about some of the issues with putting everyone on lockdown and telling everyone to stay inside and not to go outside. One, you're stuck inside. There's way more indoor pollutants, indoor contaminants. It's not as healthy for your breathing, your respiratory system. 2, you're not getting sunlight, that vitamin D. It helps boost your immune system. It helps you stay happy and sane and healthy. And 3, being in fear, which is what this is doing to a lot of people. Everyone being afraid, don't know what's going on. There's all this misinformation and conflicting information. The fear of this pandemic weakens your immune system. Being in a state of fear decreases your immune system's ability to fight off different diseases and fight off potentially the coronavirus. So to tell everyone not to go outside is an issue for those reasons. But the big thing that I really want to talk about is mental health and how this lockdown is affecting people's mental health. We know there's been research on this that mandated stay-at-home orders are devastating for people dealing with mental health issues. The longer the stay-at-home order, the greater adversity and mental illness challenges people face. And that's already happened. Like, the damage has been done to a lot of people. Even after the quarantine is lifted, the mental health issues that people develop, the depression, the anxiety, suicidal ideation, chemical dependency, that's all going to persist years after this lockdown order has gone on. Like, not everyone has a good situation in their home. It's not safe for everyone. People are stuck at home with abusers, people who are violent, people who are mentally and physically abusing them. Domestic violence rates have gone up. I myself recently just had a situation. There was a domestic violence issue with some of our roommates. I had to call the police, which I never do, so it was bad. And I actually just had to move out of that house because, the issue could not be settled, and I'm not about to be living in a home situation where I know there's domestic violence going on. So that's something that really bothers me because, as is typical, mental health is put on the back burner for physical health, and people treat it like it's not as big of an issue. But it's actually a bigger issue with this whole pandemic because, again, this lockdown has got people's mental health being affected in a lot of negative ways. A lot of people have lost their jobs, they're unemployed, they're dealing with the stress of not being able to provide for their family. People's depression, anxiety, chemical dependency, it's all so much more severe when you're on lockdown and you're isolated. Not everyone can handle this isolation. Not everyone can handle being away from their friends and family and their support systems and their communities that help them keep going because they deal with these mental health issues. So let me drop some numbers on you. 800,000 people every year die from suicide. According to the most recent World Drug Report in 2017, 585,000 people died from drug overdose, the vast majority of which being opioids given to you by the same people who want to give you the vaccine. So both of those numbers, the numbers from suicide and drug overdose, are larger than the current estimates of deaths from the coronavirus. So you really have to ask yourself, where is the balance? Why are we inflicting everyone with this lockdown that is causing so much crisis when it is affecting people, and you can say that it is causing more fatalities, more deaths than the actual virus itself? So I think the mask can be very metaphorical. People have put on the mask, they've silenced their voice, they're not speaking out. Again, a lot of times the fearful voices are the loudest that tell you, keep your head down, listen to the World Health Organization and the CDC and the government that tells you, you have to do these and follow these protocols and never go outside. If you aren't buying it, if you think the way that things are being handled is a little sketchy, then speak up about it. Take the mask off, metaphorically, and give voice to your concerns, because you're not the only one. I mean, I myself personally have had concerns about this, and I've been a little fearful, a little timid to share my opinion on it because I know people are so inflammatory and they want to say, if someone gets sick and dies, it's your fault because you said that vaccines aren't 100% effective. But we have to have this conversation, and we have to stop turning on each other and living in fear. We are a community, and all those people that you want to blame and be afraid of if they're not wearing a mask, that is your family, that is your community, and we need to stick together in these times. So give voice, be that example. Say, I'm not buying it, I don't want a mandated vaccine, I don't want to be locked down forever. You know, they're trying to make this the new normal of everyone just being afraid and inside and wearing masks. The masks are our muzzle. We are being muzzled and we're being told to keep quiet and just do what public organizations tell us to do, regardless of how we feel and regardless of whether or not it is actually in the best interest of the collective, of everybody involved. Again, because it's causing so many economic issues, financial issues, mental health issues, substance abuse issues, all from the lockdown, and the list goes on. So don't forget your humanity. Don't forget kindness. Don't forget that all these people, they're your allies, okay? We're not enemies with each other. We can get through this together. Most people recover from the coronavirus. Without a vaccine even, most people's immune system is strong enough to handle it. And I honestly don't think that we need to shut the whole world down and everyone just be panicked and be afraid. And, you know I'm not the only one. I've been very inspired by people who are sharing their voice and saying, hey, what's up with this? The way we're handling this is a bit sketchy. Because I ultimately do think it's all about control more than anything else, the way that the media has been hyping the fear, as they do with everything, but it's all about control. Because when people are afraid, they are easier to control. And when people are afraid, it's a lot easier to mandate a vaccine to them that pharmaceutical companies are going to make a bunch of money off of. So they're just profiteering on people's fear and sickness and death. And that's what's truly sick and disgusting about this whole coronavirus pandemic. So put your smile back on, breathe the good air, it's gonna be okay. Don't live in fear, rely on each other. A lot of people are, during this time of crisis, learning to remember and recognize what is truly important. Freedom, your family, your community, living in peace. Don't let that go. Things are gonna be changing, a lot of things are gonna be stirring up. I do believe that this pandemic is part of our collective awakening process. I've made a video about that if you want to check it out. But it's gonna be okay. You're gonna be all right. Don't lose the peace in your heart. Don't let anything take away the peace. Don't act in fear, no matter what you're facing, no matter what you think you should do about the coronavirus, whether you believe that we should have a mandated vaccine and we should stay shut down or not. Whatever you do, you will do more effectively with a calm, grounded state of mind and not acting out of fear. So let's quash the virus of fear and just live in peace as free humans, loving each other in loving communities as we should. So, if you like this video, if this message resonated with you, go ahead and give it a like. If you've not yet subscribed to the channel, don't forget to do that. The subscribe button is just down below. You know where it is. As always, much love to all my allies out there. We're gonna get through this together. Don't forget to appreciate life. Embrace the chaos. And I'll be seeing all of you on the next video. Bye!